Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach, and today we have with us Justin Goodbread, who's the owner of FinanciallySimp.com. Justin, welcome to the program.
Hey, Mike. How are you doing today, buddy?
Doing awesome, and I'm so excited to talk with you today about your new book because I absolutely love the title and the cover. It is called Your Baby's Ugly. So what a pattern interrupt from a marketing perspective. What a great pattern interrupt. So we're going to talk about your book, how it can change entrepreneurs' lives, but give us a brief background on what you do and then what led you to write this other book. I know you've got plenty of other publications and things.
Sure. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. I spend most of my time working with business owners and teaching on a national level through various institutions and through my website podcast, Financially Simple. The idea is we want business owners to succeed with their passions, their dreams, and we're trying to help them reignite the fact that, hey, we went into a business for a reason. And oftentimes, been there, done that type of scenario. All of us have dealt with this. We get burned out or we forget why we're in business. Life hits us, whatever it may be, COVID, you name it. And we forget that, hey, this business is truly, we look at it as a baby, but it's there just to create wealth for us and wealth for others. And so we work with business owners trying to help them reignite and build extreme value through their businesses.
Because in reality, you hear that, well, it's just my baby. I don't think I can change. You watch The Prophet and you see Marcus Lemonis going and talking about changing things up in the business, and they resist so much because you have birthed, quote unquote, that baby in a sense, and you've seen it from infancy and now it's growing, but the business may not be doing what it should be doing or could be doing. And it kind of stings when people come in and go, you could change this and it could be better.
Absolutely. So here's what we track we track three different types of gaps. We look at what's called a wealth gap, a profitability gap, and a value gap. So a wealth gap is on a personal level, how much money do we need to have to reach our personal goals? And oftentimes business owners have not taken the same path as employees, so to speak, where they have squirreled away a bunch of money into 401ks or 403bs and things of that nature. Candidly, 80% of our net worth is our business. And I've seen this many times where folk reach the latter part of their life, and all of a sudden they have this business that they hope to sell one day and fill that wealth gap up so they can live their retirement years or whatever their future retirement may look like. They hope to use that through the business sale, and candidly, it doesn't work. So we look at this wealth gap, knowing that only about 16% of businesses in the middle and micro markets actually transact, and only about 4% of those that transact, the business owners are happy with what they actually got. Yeah. So we want to plug that wealth gap, and then we look at a value gap, saying if we were to compare each of our businesses to those of our competitors who are best in class, in other words, they are able to go at the national conventions and have their team members speak about the operations, the people, the finance, the legal, all these various structures within the company. How is our value of our company in relation to a best-in-class company? And there's a gap there oftentimes. And then we want to look at the profitability gap. How much is our company profiting for us compared to that best-in-class? And so whenever we look with business owners, we want to help them plug this wealth gap, this value gap, this profitability gap. And this is why I wrote the second book called Your Baby's Ugly, and because we want to make our, quote, baby beautiful. That's the goal behind the book.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that so many times people think in analogies, and they feel like or stories. So the baby and your baby's ugly, and you kind of get shocked, like, what? How dare you? Well, if someone came in and started poking holes in your business, you'd feel the same way. So I really like that analogy, that story picture. Let's talk about some of the first things when you would say to a business owner reads the book and comes and goes, Justin, all right, tell me what are the first things that you're gonna typically notice? So yeah, you're gonna be plugging those gaps and those things you just mentioned, but what are some of the things you typically notice first that you work on or advise the business to work on?
So we broken down the middle section of the book. So the first section is why. Why do I call it a baby? Why do I say it's ugly? What's the statistics behind it? And why do we need to change our perspective? So that's the first section of the book. When we get into the what section, we break it down to 8 key areas of business. And you'll see those from chapters 2 through 9. We're dealing with planning, and that's how you plan your business. The leadership is your second one. It's chapter 3, leadership of the company. Sales is chapter 4. Marketing is chapter 5. Personnel, obviously 6. Operations, finance, and legal are the last 3 of the 8 areas. So whenever we look at a business, we like to dissect the company as if we're doing an appraisal, as if we're saying, what is the foundation, the substrate of this particular business that will give us the maximum value, that gives us the maximum profitability? Out of those 8 areas, in a small business, when I define small, it's typically a startup to about $5 million in revenue. If you're dealing with the middle market, it's about $5 to $10 million in revenue to $100 million in revenue. In a small business, what we often see is planning and marketing are the 2 weakest areas. Now, that doesn't mean that the others don't need improvement. But what happens in a small business, again, under $5 million in revenue, those individuals typically as an owner-operator, and they're caught on fire. They're running like a firefighter every day from place to place trying to put out fires or spin the plate, keep something from falling. And so they don't take the time to say, hey, here's where we're at today, and here's purposefully where we're going. Mm-hmm. And that's where planning is often weak. The other area is marketing is often weak in that small business, and that is that we throw money oftentimes to try to target anybody and everybody versus being micro-specific on who is our best and most idealistic client. And so if I were going to pick, Mike, of the 2 weakest areas of a business that I could almost every time in a small business, it would be planning and marketing.
I love that you said that, because I will give 2 analogies that just coincide right with that. One is, the old saying, ready, aim, fire. Too many people, businesses just go fire, 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 and then maybe aim, maybe a little bit, but it's never ready. And it really should be ready, 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 aim, aim, aim. And to your point about the planning. For quite a while, my umbrella company or my consulting firm is Marketing Huddle, and the tagline is strategy, tactics, and execution, because you need to have a strategy first, then you need to think of the tactics, and then guess what? Ooh, they don't do any good until you execute them. So that planning stage is so huge, and it's, in my opinion, before the marketing stage, because if you are, let's just use the example, doing a Google or a Facebook ad campaign, and you're spending a bunch of money and it's going to the wrong target audience, to your point, and going to a website that isn't quite looking really good, which is the marketing side of things, you need to have the brand built up, and you don't have really, really great reviews, so you're just wasting money. You're talking to the wrong people, and you're not putting your best foot forward. So when you notice that their planning and their marketing is off, or obviously you need to start with the planning, but where do you start with the plan? That could be a 3-month process, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack there, but here's kind of the way that I would approach it. Again, we don't want to get into self-assessment, because all of us think our businesses are beautiful, right? So we got to be careful with the self-assessing business owner. What I often recommend is let's do a comprehensive review of where in the business do we need to focus on. And as we look through those 8 areas, we may be attacking a piece or 2 in each of those 8 areas at one time. Ultimately, the ultimate goal is this. The ultimate goal is to delineate everything in the business down to a written, workable document. Ultimately, it's to have a truly written business plan. That's whether you're going with the 9 key points of a business plan or the 13 or the 7, there's all sorts of business models out there, but you want to delineate everything down to a written business plan. You want everything down to a written operating manual. You want everything down to a written sales manual, how you hire, fire, and train people. Everything needs to delineate down to writing. And here's why that's important. As a business owner stops the day-to-day run, and we start thinking about what exactly is our marketing plan? What is our marketing strategy? Who are we specifically going after? And they take the time to write it down and think through that and follow a template to create a written document that governs the marketing of the company. It's going to expose all the cracks, all the holes, all the pressure points, everything within that business that is going to prevent maximum efficiency. So whenever a client begins, or whenever a business owner begins this process, the simple advice I would give is, hey, let's do something. Let's start out with doing a SWOT analysis of these 8 key areas. And inside the book, I actually give at the end of each chapter questions that a business owner can look at and then rate themselves on these key questions as relate to the areas within planning, as relates to the areas within operations. And we can do a SWOT analysis and ultimately move into a point of resolution. We ultimately want to get from the data point to an action point. And that's where most business owners want to immediately jump to.
Yeah.
So whenever we move into the action point, Mike, that's where transition and effect begins to take place.
I love the fact that you said a one-page business plan, marketing plan, whatever, and maybe it's not one page, but hopefully it is, right? Because here's it reminded me of this. Einstein is known for saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough yourself. And I think that so many times you get these business plans or marketing plans that are 20, 30 pages each, and it's just a bunch of blah. And then it's never going to get implemented. And it's like knowledge is power. Yay, we've got the knowledge. Here's the plan. We'll put it into action. Get out there and execute on that. So having that simplicity aspect is so important. And one of my favorite books, Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller, he talks about when you confuse, you lose. And if you are confusing yourself with some overinflated business plan, you're going to definitely confuse your target audience, even if you are talking to the right target audience.
You know, let's take it a step further then, Mike. We want to simplify, but we want to simplify it at every level within an organization. And so whenever I speak to an operating manual, I want to give you a case in point that's happened in my company to drive this point home. We went through our company on the people section, on the operations section of our business, and we said, okay, we understand what every person's role and responsibility is, and we delineated that down to a manual. This last about 45 days ago, one of our key people within our organization received her dream job opportunity. I mean, it was doubling her compensation, the very job that she went to school for. And she came to our team and she said, I don't know what to do. I love the culture of the company, but I just was offered this. And our team said graciously, hey, you need to follow your passion. You need to go and, I mean, if doubling your revenue, follow your passion. We want to watch you succeed. We want to be a launching pad. She had never received that from a company, which means our culture was right. That's the people component. But then because of the hiring complexity that we're in the small business world or business in general in the United States at this point, finding good people to step into a role is very tough right now. So during the summertime, my 16-year-old daughter, who's never worked a day in her life in a sense of a business or in the sense of a regular job, I said, sweetheart, well, I'd like for you to come in and fulfill this position for 45 days during your summertime. Mm-hmm. She's jumped into that position, Mike, and at her station, there was a manual that had pictures to show her exactly what she needed to do to fulfill this particular position. That is whenever I talk about becoming best in class. It is having a manual, having documentation, having processes so well refined that a 16-year-old can do it. That they can do it. So we've all gone to McDonald's. I love this story about McDonald's. I mean, many of us know the Burger family. The Burger family, the family's history. I said burger because I know a burger who owns a McDonald's.
Oh, that's funny.
So we know the history of McDonald's. But here's what's amazing to me. Well, next time you go to any fast food restaurant, notice the age, oftentimes, of the individual who is cooking the French fries.
Yeah,
they're dealing with flammable grease, right? So I often say McDonald's has created a process and a system where 16-year-olds can come in and do their first-time job ever and not burn down the building cooking French fries.
Yeah.
We need to delineate that down within these 8 key areas of our business, and only then do we become best in class. But it's not for naught. And so what I often hear, Mike, as I talk this way, is business owners will say, Justin, I hear you, but why? And here's what we have to remember when it comes to valuing a company. When it comes to valuing a company, there's 2 metrics that work. And this is a simple mathematical equation that most business owners can grasp on why this matters. And this is what I deal with in this book as well. When we go to value of a company, the most common effect is to use EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. So EBITDA is a common terms of finance, times a multiple. So let's say hypothetically that our EBITDA is $100,000 and the multiple is 2. That means our company's worth $200,000. So the only way we can drive the value of our company up from $200,000 is to either increase EBITDA or to increase the multiple. The problem is that most business owners run out and they try to increase EBITDA. We try to generate more sales. We try to generate more activity. All we're doing is increasing what's called company-specific risk. It's like trying to force too much water through a kinked water hose. It's going to break something. On the other hand, if we can focus that multiple, if we can focus on building a system, a process that adds value, we could drive the same value. So case in point, let's say we doubled the revenue of our company. We moved it from 100,000 to 200,000, and the multiple remains the same. The 200,000 times 2 is $400,000 in value. But what happens if, instead of working on revenue, we worked on the multiple? What happens if we kept our $100,000 in revenue, but we doubled our valuation multiple from 2 to 4? The flow stays the same, but the value of the company increases to the same effect. So the reason why all this matters, business owners, is this. We only have so much time in the day. We only have about 1,600 working hours for the average person per year. And so if we can become hyper efficient and do the things which drive the multiple of our company, thus increasing the value, we are truly able to remove ourselves from the epicenter of the business to where now we truly have a business that provides us income or provides value without us having to be the firefighters that so many of us are. So, Mike, that's why these 8 areas matter so much to us business owners.
Hey, Justin, do you watch The Profit with Marcus Lemonis?
What's interesting is I actually just quoted him on my podcast about 3 episodes ago, illustrating something he did in a particular business. I love the way he approaches things.
I do too. Did you see the season premiere about the honey company that came out just last week or this week?
No, I didn't.
Well, there's a teaching point in there, which, goes right along with what you just said. And the long story short is, here's this company that they're making part of their company is making these honey boxes for bees. And he's like, okay, show me the process. And they do this, and he times it, and he goes, okay, you take the wood off of this and you cut that and all these things. And he's like, okay, 5 minutes and 28 seconds or whatever it was. And he goes, how can we get that lower? So what if we change the process and got this and that and the other? And he had the whole team there, and he goes, how much do you think that could save us? And they're like, probably two minutes, easy, 2 or 3 minutes. He goes, let's just assume it saves us 1 minute. And then, of course, his deal where he pulls up on the screen, it'll be like, well, if you save 1 minute, then, and that 1 minute of savings, he then recalculated into hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue because of how the business was working. So when you hear what you just said on operations and manuals and EBITDAs and multiples, it doesn't have to be, the huge undertaking like, wow, we got to hire 9 full-time people to accomplish that. Sometimes it's just that one little tweak, and and then the compound effect then will get you where you want to go.
Well, and that's where I come to the last section of the book. Is it's not just a book it's not just a mountaintop book that says, hey, I've done this, do this. It's okay. Here's now how you can apply these principles to your business. So I show people how to do a truly profitable strategic plan, how to walk your company through this process. Now, we get paid tens of thousands of dollars to do this for clients nationally, but every business owner can employ this. It's as simple as running through those 8 areas of our business, doing a SWOT analysis, and then sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to pick 3 things. Now, this sounds crazy, okay, Mike? But you've got to make it ultra simple, or else we business owners are going to not do anything. So I want to pick 3 things. What are my 3 objectives that I want to hit in this calendar year, whether it's a fiscal or calendar year? What are the 3 things I want to hit? So if we know, okay, I want to increase sales. Great. By how much? By what time period? You quantify everything. Then you go down to, what are the 3 tactics that we're going to do? Now, it may be we're going to refine our marketing plan by incorporating story brand type of processes. That may be the tactic now. So for each objective, we're going to have 3 tactics. Okay. So now we have 3 objectives, 9 tactics. Then for each tactic, we're going to have 3 action steps. So if I stay with my process, we want to increase sales. One of the ways we're going to do that is build a true marketing plan that's in alignment with story brand methodologies. So our action step is going to be, let's create some video, let's hire some text, let's do X, Y, Z, whatever those action steps are. In those action steps, though, what we're going to do is we're going to allow the team to self-volunteer through a process to who is going to do what by when. and there's going to be a responsibility and accountability, and they're going to have the authority to move in that direction. So when we get done with this process of strategic planning, what happens is there's 27 actual items that are going to take place by the owner and or team and or consultants, outside parties, 1099, subcontractors, whoever it is, that is going to ultimately move the company 3 steps. And for me as a business owner, that sounds like that's it. That's all I got to do. The business is not complicated.
Yeah.
The problem is we don't take the time to build our business. We are reactionary in nature. So by just putting these 3 little steps in, there's 27 action items. What we in effect have done is said, here is the roadmap that we're going to follow as business owners, as a corporation, as a group of people, a team working together. And if we can accomplish these 3 things, these 3 major points, look at what we could do. And I've done this too many years now, Mike. What happens to the process is we knock those out of the way, but we also uncover other weaknesses that we add to the next quarter or next year's mission. And now we are effectively becoming a best-in-class business because we're intently focusing on those areas which we all need to deal with.
It's like the 90-day sprint. You don't eat the whole elephant in one bite. It's just a step at a time. And if you showed them what they have to do in a 3-year period, they'd freak out and say, we're just not going to do anything, even though they know they need to. So it's that, let's look at this chunk. Yeah, you can do that. And then they do it, and they get a little bit of, endorphin rush because they see some results. I'm like, oh, well, we could do those 3 things. Yeah, okay. And then what are the next 3? And then what are the next 3? And you're easing them into then that. And then at some point, I'm sure you say, hey, look behind us here. Look where we've come from. Wow.
One of the things I like to track myself, now this is an internal metric that we track in our own business, is we say we want to teach business owners, not always possible. It's not always possible. Let me say it again. It's not always possible, but we want to teach business owners that they can double their net worth every 3 to 5 years. It is possible for a business owner to double their net worth every 3 to 5 years. So whenever you're looking at a starting point and you realize the business is running you, the business owner, or the business is now gotten to a point to where it's out of control, it's not exactly where you want it to be. Maybe you're in control, but you're off the mark of where you desire to be. The minute you take the initiative to be purposeful and focus out on where you're going to be a year from now, or 3 years a little long in today's marketplace, but at least a year from now, where do you want this business to be? And now you bring in comprehensive planning into that model. It is extremely possible for you to double your net worth as a business owner every 3 to 5 years. That's the metric that we like to track. And whenever business owners see that happen, man, Mike, you ought to see their faces, dude. Yeah. It's amazing.
Well, you've changed their family legacy because it typically is their business for the purpose of their family. And it's like way more than just, yay, we add another 0 to the bottom line for our, shareholders, which is wonderful. But it has a lot more importance when it's our family or our legacy. So I think that's spectacular.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
we want to get the business owner out of the epicenter of the business, Mike. That's the key.
Yeah.
Get them out of the middle of the business.
Otherwise, they just have a job. They're just punching the clock for themselves. Rather, I remember that 40-hour-a-week job. And now all of a sudden you're working 80 hours for you.
That's correct.
Job. Well, we need to have a business. So I love your approach. Love that we went through the table of contents for your new book. So how could people reach out, connect with you guys, and also pick up a copy of Your Baby's Ugly?
Sure. So the book is available on Amazon and in Audible. It's also available in bookstores nationally at this point, I believe, online, I believe. So it's available just about anywhere you Google Your Baby's Ugly. And to learn more about the teaching that I teach, you can check out Financially Simple. We have a podcast that has almost 400 some odd episodes in it right now, where we actually teach these principles. It's designed strictly for business owners. The blog, Financially Simple, has about 1,700 articles on there dealing and teaching with here's how you can help drive the value and your net worth in your own companies.
Well, Justin, as always, it's great to have you on. It was wonderful connecting with you and learning more about your book. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.